All right, everybody, good Tuesday afternoon. I've got a big-time special guest with me today, Matt Wilber, the head coach of the Dakota Wesleyan basketball team. Matt, thanks for taking a few minutes to join us here today on Sacred Hoops.
Hey, yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for the invite.
One of the things we were kind of visiting just before we came on air here today, but was the end of the season this year for Dakota Wesleyan. Can you kind of describe how that went down and what kind of a thud that was for your program and your players and just everybody involved?
Yeah, I think you said the word pretty well. Like it was a soft thud. Like, what the heck happened here? I mean, I've said this a number of times. You know, when your season ends, there's a playbook and a script for how a basketball season ends, no matter what happens to you. Like, you lose a game, you win a game, whatever. There's a script and there's logical things to say to talk about the game or whatever. And then this has just been so weird, you know, and and that's what it was. It was like, instead of ending in the locker room after, like, the year before, a guy hit a last second three against us and we're all huddled up on the floor crying and bawling our eyes out. This one was like, what? You know, what happened here? We're in a hotel room after breakfast and the tournament had been canceled. I'm like, guys, that's it. We're not going to play, you know, and it had already gotten a little bit weird because they had said we weren't going to have fans at the game the night before. On Wednesday night, they're like, hey, this is really going crazy. And then while we were at breakfast, the Big Ten tournament and the Big 12 tournament were pulling players off of the court. So all of us were sitting there like, ooh, this isn't good. This, you know, it was a really eerie feeling. And then, you know, I'm sitting there going, so we're going to keep playing at the tournament that's sponsored by a hospital. Yeah, this just ain't going to happen. You know, like, so yeah, it was tough. We were sitting in that hotel room and guys were just like, what the heck? And then it started hitting seniors and it started hitting guys like, this thing's over. And frankly, I've seen a number of our guys individually, but since that day, we have not been together as a group. Our basketball team hasn't gotten together as a group. We packed up and we got home to Mitchell, and our administration had said, hey, these guys have to be gone within a half hour and heading home, because that's when all the online learning started for our guys. So you're talking, I mean, we have, you know, I've seen a number of the guys, but a lot of them I haven't. So it's just been really weird.
Coach, I mean, such a weird way to end the season. How do you put a closure on some of those things? Like a great career from Ty Hoglund, some other seniors. How do you put closure on this year?
Yeah. You know, the only thing that, you know, it was really disappointing not to be able to play in the national tournament. You know, that national tournament is so hit or miss. We were in a really tough bracket. I mean, you maybe had, you had 3 of the top 5 or 6 players, maybe 3 of the top 5 players in the country in our bracket, in our side. So we had a huge challenge ahead of us to make any noise, but you'll never put that against anybody. And I'd never put that against Ty Hoglund. You got Ty Hoglund playing in the Pentagon, anything's going to happen. And so that was disappointing that we couldn't play. I was thankful that group of seniors had played in a national tournament every year. You know, that was one thing. It wasn't like, hey, we had just qualified for the first time ever and that had happened and we got robbed of it. But, you know, I've said this before as well. During our years with our seniors, we've had some really good groups of seniors here. And we've always had a message from the day we start. We're not going to wait till the last game of the season to start appreciating how great it is to be together and how great all of this is. I know these workouts are tough. I know the lifting's tough. I know the practices sometimes you're dragging. But our program and what you guys do from a basketball standpoint day in and day out just isn't about game nights. We want to have good days all the time. I mean, this year's different. But if you talk about our summers, our kids, we see our kids throughout the summer. So you're talking if a guy's around all the time for us, we're seeing him over 300 days out of the year. And you're talking 30 games roughly. So 1 out of 10 days is a game night. 9 out of 10 is something else. We try to take advantage of every day and celebrate every day and they have good energy. So that was my message when it all got done. Like, hey guys, you have done this the right way. And you didn't need another game to put a closure on your career to validate what you've done up to this point. You guys were amazing with that. I just feel badly that it ended this way for us. But, you know, if we were only one team, that's different. But you're talking about hundreds of teams across the country that were cut short.
Coach, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned, not being with your players yet so far this summer. One of the things that seemed kind of, weird and people were talking about was a dead period for college recruiting. Can you kind of explain that and how that affected you this year?
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, it drives me nuts. From the recruiting standpoint, if you want me to be brutally honest with you, I hate recruiting through a phone. We have to do it a little bit, and we have to, you're staying in contact with guys with that. But normally at this point, we'd seen our top recruits 4, 5, 6 times just out in their tournaments, and then outside of inviting them on campus and to be around our guys going through our open gyms, all of that stuff, and so not only has it been frustrating that we can't see them, we don't have anything to talk about from a basketball standpoint either. Like normally you're talking about guys, hey, your state tournament, it was fun to see in the state tournament, this game or that game, or what? Hey, we watched you this weekend. Hey, you were great against these guys. Here's some things to think about. Right now, it's like, so how's online learning going, man? Like we're talking about topics that like neither of us or any of us want to talk about, and so you're doing our best with it. Obviously, adapt and change and do all of that. We've just opened back up on campus here to be doing visits. So we'll be scheduling more of those as we get going with our kids, because that's just getting started again. But yeah, it's been tough because we're lucky from the NAIA standpoint too with our recruiting. And I guess maybe unlucky on some occasions if you really want to get into that. We can talk to players and parents at any time when we're out at events.
Right.
Our contact, we don't have contact rules like the NCAA does. Sometimes that's a good thing, maybe the barrier with that. But for us, that's something we like doing. We go out, we see them, we're right down by the parents and talking to kids. And we just have been able to do none of that. So I feel for both of us. I feel for the kids that haven't been able to play in their tournaments. And those are getting started too a little bit. Obviously, some of these tournaments are opening up the last couple of weeks. But it's just been really different and frustrating on a lot of levels.
Coach, can you talk a bit about your relationship with the Hoglund family? Those roots go pretty far back from the time you transferred from Miller to Del Rapids as a freshman in high school.
Yeah, that's been a topic that's been really popular with us, and I've just been really lucky with it. Ty gets asked this a lot. Ty gets asked this a lot, especially from people my age and older that maybe know I played for his dad at Del Rapids in high school. And he was just a little punk, growing up at that time. So like my relationship with him actually started with Ty started when he was in high school and I was running Tibbs basketball camps. And that's when we first started to get to know each other. But Mick, I was introduced to Mick when I was a middle schooler, and he was an English teacher in Miller. And he was in his mid-20s and very involved in amateur baseball, amateur basketball. He was an assistant basketball coach for our varsity team in Miller. And he was like the first superstar athlete, that I was watching, and he is from South Dakota. Like, and I'm sure I can't be the only one that was like this, but here's this skinny 6'3" lefty, and I'm a left-handed little punk, watching, and he's hitting home runs. I go watch him in these old man games up in Miller, which what those look like across the state anyway. And he's doing 360s live in games. And I'm like, I'm like, what the heck here? And he was just the guy. He was my guy, I was just really lucky to grow up watching my dad play sports. And then here comes Mick. And then he moved, he went back to Del Rapids. My family, after my freshman year of high school, we moved to Del Rapids. And so I was lucky enough to play for Mick at Del Rapids. And I've said this before as well. There's no way I'm sitting in this chair. There's no way that, I would have played at Augustana College and had a chance to play at Augie and had the career I had. And it was a very mediocre career. Let's just be honest here. But I had a lot of opportunities, and my life course of just all the things that you talk about, how your life goes certain directions for all different reasons. Mick Hoglund was a big part of mine, and I just have been blessed. I had been blessed to be able to be around him and be coached by him. And then the absolute ridiculousness of being a head college basketball coach and having that opportunity. And then the best player I've ever coached and one of the best players ever to play college basketball in South Dakota is his son. And he's with me for 4 years and all of that. I mean, it's a really storybook type, situation. And I just am really lucky. And on top of all of that, Ty's as great a kid as you're going to get. And our relationship goes a lot further than a basketball court. Him and me do, and forever will be that way. And so just very blessed to have that family in my life and how that all worked out.
Coach, I'm going to shift gears on you here in a second. I don't know if you've talked to the housing folks over there at Dakota Wesleyan, but it looks like you may have to start a new wing specifically for Sacred Hoops players because you've been recruiting a lot of Sacred Hoops guys. I wanted to ask you in particular about a recruit from 2019. How is Jacob Prouty from Clark Willow Lake coming along this first year?
Well, what a great recruit he was too. All of our guys. And just a side note before I dive into that, recruiting is so, getting kids, and our footprint is South Dakota, and obviously Sacred Hoops. You guys have just done a great job of getting teams and expanding teams and having so many kids involved. But when you recruit, I wish I could say this is exactly how a guy's career is going to go, and we've been lucky enough to have some really good players and upperclassmen. And when Jacob came in, no doubt about it, we're just big time excited about him. And it was really good for him last year. He didn't play a lot for us in the varsity level, but he was going against all-American guards the whole time and just highly competitive. I like seeing out of guys. I like seeing out of our older guys that may be playing when they're getting frustrated with the younger guys. When I'm hearing hey, that guy's following me everywhere, I'm like, well, he's doing the right thing here, man. You're annoyed with him, that's a really good thing. If you're not annoyed with him and you're kicking his tail every day, I'm concerned about his ability. But Jacob was one of those guys, he came to work every day and came to play every day. Just a tough, hard-nosed kid. Great to be around. Another one of those guys. He just has fit in really well. And we're hopeful for him. He's on a recovery path. He had a little hiccup out on his farm where he banged his legs up and a scary situation that I'm lucky is where he's at, but he's in recovery mode. We've been talking. That's the one thing about not seeing a guy every day that's going on, where you don't get to check in all the time. But yeah, he's been awesome.
I wanted to ask you about a couple of particular players that are in this recruiting class from this year. One of them is Class B from Burke, and that's Jaden Frank, who I thought had one of the most improved years of anybody in the Class B ranks, and a guy that I think is a complete sleeper down from Pine Ridge who did not make any All-State teams but is a really talented guy, Mr. Charles Schrader. Can you just visit about those two guys a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Two guys we're really excited about. We're lucky here. We're lucky here where we can go out and target some kids and not get restricted by a roster size and all that stuff to give guys a chance, because we have guys spike through our program left and right. And I'm always curious out of our recruiting class who those kids are going to be. And you brought up two really good ones. Jaden's just a really good athlete, just an athletic kid. You're talking about a kid who, with multi-sport stuff and, things going on, just well-rounded dude. And we're excited about him from just a lot of other, not just on the court stuff, just the type of guy he's going to be when he's here. He just fits the mold that we're looking for. So, from that standpoint, really excited about Jaden. And then with Charles too, the way he plays, he's got a great style about him. He's big and strong. He's got no fear. He's got no fear in playing and making a play and making the big play. You watch him play, and he's one of those guys. He's always chirping on the floor to his teammates. He's always talking. Those are things that you don't undersell at all. I mean, those are things that go a long ways. And I saw him play. I've seen him play a number of times, but we got to see him play in the Corn Palace this year. And he beat the hometown team. He came here in the Corn Palace and was playing Mitchell High School, And it was this back and forth game the whole time. And it came down to one possession, and he had the ball in his hands. And I'm sitting there going and just watching him from a distance. I'm like, he's probably going to do something pretty special here. And he hits a game-winning shot. You know, like he just seems like that kind of guy. And then just an enthusiastic type athlete. You know, like when you talk to him, you can tell he loves hoops. He loves to play. You can tell guys around him really like playing with him. So yep, excited about Charles too, and fired up. You know, here at Dakota Wesleyan, just with us being really local and being where we're at, even just being an hour east of or an hour west of Sioux Falls, we really try to target west of us. You know, we really try to target west of us, and partly me growing up in Miller, you know, growing up in a Class A town. We've got our eyes on the Class A, Class B guys all the time, and
Cool.
are always excited for them.
Coach, I'm going to let you go here in a second, but I've got one kind of final thing that I kind of noticed on your social media page yesterday. What are your thoughts on multi-sport athletes, and are those the type of players that you look to recruit?
Yeah, you know, I posted something out there, and that was about a 30-year-old tweet, frankly. You know, that's just stuff you see throughout the years. And this topic of specialization has really hit the forefront recently, more so, because there are so many opportunities for kids to specialize. And I was a part of that. You know, I was a part of that process in Tibbs, where we're doing workouts and kids are paying us for workouts, and we're available all year long. And trying to do a really good job and provide a good experience and getting kids better. You know, kids have that at their fingertips for every sport right now, to do that. And, you know, frankly, I think every situation is different. If kids want to specialize, I'm not going to tell somebody not to specialize, but I'm a big advocate for multi-sport athletes. I'm a big advocate in recruiting them. It's not a do all, say all, end all for me. But, you know, it's getting harder. It just feels like this. It just feels like it's getting harder for kids to play more than one sport all of the time. And it just, I don't want to just, because this is just my opinion. This is my opinion. And I'm not sitting with every high school coach and every AAU director and every sport, because everybody's got their take on it. But here's where I'd really have a problem. This is where I'd really have a problem. You got a kid who's a multi-sport athlete. You got a guy who's playing more than one sport. When he's in season with that sport, everybody in his circle should be saying that's the priority. Everybody in his circle should be, hey, if you've got a basketball game and you're on a basketball team, you can't miss practice or your game for any other sport. Right. Everything else becomes secondary. If you're a baseball player, if you're going to be a part of a team and you're on a baseball team, and I don't care what age you are, if you got a baseball game, you go to your baseball game, and everything becomes secondary. Otherwise, don't do it. Don't do it. And if the people around them, and this could be parents, this could be coaches, this could be AAU directors, whoever, you've got to be promoting the well-rounded athlete and promoting the priority, because that's setting a standard for not just them playing in their ability, because it's okay to be on the bench and be a really good player for a different sport. It's okay to do that stuff. I'm telling you, you learn a ton from being at different ends of the bench. I could not do my job today if I wasn't a scrub at Augie. I couldn't do my job. I've sat on every seat of the bench as a basketball person, and it's benefited me as a head coach, and it benefited me as a player. And those experiences, people are specializing for the reason of, hey, I'm better at this and that and all of that. You know, it's just a wide range of things going on there. But I just am like, if you want to be a multi-sport athlete, great, be one. But you got to prioritize the sport that's in season, and everything else becomes secondary with the other sports, and you try to fit that in. And you can do that no matter what anybody tells you. You can do that. You can go to a gym by yourself. You can go to the park by yourself and get all the shots up you need. You can still get the batting practice. You can still do all these things. You don't need to be playing organized games to call that your experience for another sport. Practice is okay. Individual practice is okay. And as you can maybe tell, I'm pretty passionate about that. You know, I was lucky. I was lucky, and maybe I would have been better at Augie as a basketball player had I given it up as a baseball player. Maybe I would have been a better baseball player had I not played basketball as well. But I played both sports all the way through. It was really difficult. It was really hard, and I probably I don't know. I just can't speculate on what I would have been in either of them, but I can guarantee you this. I'm thankful I didn't give up on either of them all the way through. And that was college. That was college. We're not even talking about high school. And so I just think people can do a good job of supporting our kids and making it easier for them to make the right decisions as they're going through.